A good honest fellow, quoth Robin Hood, and such an one as is a credit to English yeomanry. Now let us have a merry yeast with him. We will forth as though we were common thieves, and pretend to rob him of his honest gains. Then we will take him into the forest and give him such a feast such as his stomach never held in all his life before. We will flood his throat with good canary, and send him home with crowns in his purse for every penny he hath. What say ye, lads? Truly it is a merry though, said Will Scarlet. It is well planned, quoth Little John. But all the saints preserve us from any more drubbings this day. Marry my poor bones ache so that I... Pray thee peace, Little John, quoth Robin. Thy foolish tongue will get us both well laughed at yet. My foolish tongue, forsooth, grooved Little John to Arthur Bland. I would it could keep your master from getting us into another coil this day. But now the miller, plodding along the road, had come opposite to where the yeoman lay hidden. Upon all four of them ran at him and surrounded him. Hold, friend, cried Robin to the miller. Thereupon he turned slowly, with the weight of his back upon his shoulder, and looked at each in a turn, all bewildered, for though a good stout man, his wits did not skip like roasting chestnuts. Who bids me stay? Said the miller in a deep voice and guff like the growl of a great dog. Marry, that do I, quoth Robin, and let me thee tell thee, friend, thou hastest the best mind my bidding. And who art thou, good friend? Said the miller, throwing the great sack of meal from his shoulders to the ground. And who are those with thee? We be four good Christian men, quoth Robin, and would fain help thee by carrying part of thy heavy load. I give you all my thanks, said the miller, but my back is none that heavy that I could not carry it being myself. Nay, thou dost mistaken, quoth Robin. I mean that thou midst perhaps have some heavy farthings or pence about thee, not to speak of silver and gold. Our good Gareth Swanhold saith that gold is an over-heavy burden for a two-legged ass to carry, so we would even lift some of this loaf for thee. Alas, cried the miller, what would ye do to me? I have not about me so much as I clip the groat. Do no harm to me, I pray thee, but let me depart in peace. Moreover, let me tell you that ye are upon Robin Hood's ground, and should it be fine you seek to rob an honest craftsman, he will clip your ears to your heads, and scourge you even to the walls of Nottingham. I fear Robin Hood no more than I do myself, quoth jolly Robin. Thou must this day give up to me every penny thou hast about thee. Nay, if thou doest budge an inch, I will rattle this staff about thine ears. Nay, smith me not, cried the miller, throwing up his elbows as though he feared the blow. Thou mayest search me if thou wilt, but thou wouldst find nothing upon me, porch, pocket, or skin. Is it so, quoth Robin Hood, looking keenly upon him. Now I believe that what thou tellest is not true tale. If I am not much mistaken, thou hast somewhat in the bottom of thy sack a meal. Good Arthur, empty the bag up on the ground. I warrant thou wilt find a shilling or two in the flour. Alas, cried the miller, failing upon his knees, spoil not all my good meal. I can better you not, and will ruin me. Spare it, and I will give up the money in the bag. Ha, quoth Robin, nudging Will Scarlet. So is it, and have I found to where the money lies? Marry, I have a wondrous nose for the blessed image of good King Henry. I thought that I smelt good gold and silver beneath the barley meal. Bring it straight forth, miller. Then slowly the miller arose to his feet, and slowly and unwillingly he untied untied the mouth of the bag, and slowly thrust his hands into the meal, and began fumbling about with his arms buried in his elbows in the barley flour. The other gathered around him, their hands together, looking and wondering what he would bring forth. So they stood, all with their hands close together, gazing down into the sack. But while he prepared to be searching for the money, the miller gathered 2 great handfuls of meal. "Ha!" quoth he, "here they are, the beauties." Then, as the others leaned still more forward to see what he had, he suddenly cast the meal into their faces, filling their eyes and noses and mouths with flour, blinding and half choking them. Arthur a blade was worse off than any, for his mouth was open agape with wonder of what was come to forth, so that a great flower of clouding flour flew down his throat, setting him a coughing till he could scarlet stand. Then, while all 4 stumbled about, roaring with the smart of meal in their eyeballs, and while they rubbed their eyes till the tears made great channel on their faces through the meal, the miller seized another handful of flour and another, throwing it into their faces, so that even had they had a glimmering of light before, they would now as blind as ever beggar in Nottinghamshire, while their hair and beards and clothes were as white as snow. Then, catching up his great crab staff, the miller began laying about him as though he were clean gone mad, this way, that skipped the flour like peas on a drumhead, but they could see neither to defend themselves nor to run away. Track, track, went the miller's cudgel across their backs, and at every blow great white clouds of flour rose in the air from their jackets and went drifting down the breeze. "Stop!" roared Robin at least. "Give over, good friend, I am Robin Hood." "Thou liest, thou knave," cried the miller, giving him a rap on the ribs and sent up a great cloud of flour like a puff of smoke. "Stout Robin never robbed an honest tradesman. Ha! Thou wouldn't have my money, wouldn't thou?" He gave him another blow. "And nay, thou art not getting the share, thou long-legged knave. Share and share alike." And he smote Little John across the shoulders, so that he sent him skipping half across the road. "Nay, I feel not. It is true turn now, Blackbeard." And he gave the tanner a crack that made him roar for all his coughing. "How now, Redcoat? Let me brush the dust from thee," cried he, smithing Will scarlet. And so he gave them merry words and blows until they could scarcely stand, and wherever he saw one like to clear his eyes, he threw more flour in his face. At least Robin Hood found his horn, and clapping it to his lips, he blew loudly 3 blasts upon it. Now it chanced that Will Scarlet and a party of Robin Hood's men were in the glades not far from where this sport was going forward. Hearing the hump of voices and blows that sounded like a noise of a fale in the barn in winter-time, they stopped listening and wondering what was towards. Quoth Will Scarlet sturdily, "Now, if I mistake not, there is some stout battle with cudgels going forward not far hence. I would fain see that pretty sight." So saying, he and the whole party turned their steps whereas the noise came. When they had come near where all the tumble sounded, they heard that 3 blast of Robin Hood's Burgel's horn. "Quick!" cried young David of Dorchester. "Our master is in sore need." So without stopping a moment, they dashed forward with might and main, and burst forth from the cover into the high road. But what a sight was that which they saw! The road was all white with meal, and 5 men stood there, also white with meal from top to toe, for much of the barley flour had fallen back upon the miller. "That is thy need, master," cried Will stoutly. "And what doeth this mean?" "Why," quoth Robin in a mighty passion, "yon traitor fell low half came as nigh slaying me as a man in all the world. Hast thou not come quickly, good Studley? Thy master has been dead." Thereupon, while he and the others rubbed the meal from their eyes, and Will Studley and his men brushed their clothes clean, he told them all how that he had meant to pass a yeast upon the miller, which same has turned so grievously upon them. "Quick, man, seize the vile miller," cried Stoutly, who was neither choking nor laughter, as were the rest. Thereupon several ran upon the stout fellow, and seizing him, bound his arms behind his back with bowstrings. "Ha!" cried Robin, when they brought the trembling miller to him. "Thou wouldst murder me, wouldst thou? By my faith!" Here he stopped and stood glaring upon the miller grimly. But Robin's anger could not hold. So first his eyes twinkled, and then, in spite of all, broken into a laugh. Now, when they saw their master laugh, the yeomen who stood around could contain themselves no longer, and a mighty shout of laughter went up from all. Many could not stand, but rolled up on the ground from pure merriment. "What is thy name, good fellow?" said Robin at last to the miller, who stood gaping, and as though he were in amaze. "Alas, sir, I am Midge, the miller's son," said he in a frightened voice. "I make my vow," quoth merry Robin, smithing him upon the shoulder, "thou art the mightiest Midge that me and ease beheld. Now wilt thou leave thy dust mill and come and join my band? By my faith, thou art too stout a man to spend thy days betwixt the hopper and the till. Then truly, if thou doest forgive me for the blows I struck, not knowing who thou wast, I will join thee right merrily," said the miller. "Then I have gained the stain," quoth Robin, "the 3 stoutest yeomen in all Nottinghamshire. We will get us away in the greenwood tree, and there hold a merry feast in honour of our new friend, and mayhap a good cup or 2 of sack and canny may mellow the sores of my poor joints and bones, though I warran it will be merry a day before I am again the man I was." So saying, he turned and leaned away, the rest following, and so they entered the forest once more and were lost to sight. So that the night all was ablaze, the cracking fingers in the woodlands, for though Robin and those others spoken of, only excepting Midge, the son of the miller, had many a score dump and bruise here and there on their bones, they were still no more so in the joints that they could not enjoy a jolly feast given all and welcome to the new members of the band. Just the song and yeasting and laughter that echoed through the deeper and more silent nooks of the forest. The night passed quickly along, as such merry times are wont to do, until the least each man stood his cough and silent fell on all things, and all things seemed to sleep. But Little John's tongue was ever one that was not easy to guidance, so that inch by inch the whole story of this fighter with the tanner and Robin's fight with Will Scarlet leaked out. And so I have told it, that you may laugh at the merry tale along with me.